So we are on lesson 170. There's no cruelty in God.
And none in me. And this is the one that's got that monstrous stone god that looks like, something from a 1950s movie
Oh, yeah.
of, stone and fire and smoke. And it's supposed to be scary, but it's really not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
an image
that
here.
cruel God is what you've invented to keep you safe. That's the point of this lesson.
Yeah, well, we've invented.
The fear and the main point in this whole lesson is that your defenses and fear is what's causing your sense of not being safe.
Right.
And the belief is that I have to defend myself through attack and defense,
Right,
for me to be safe.
yeah.
Right.
So it's a lot, it just follows on that lesson. In my defenselessness, my safety lies.
Mhm.
So if my safety is in defenselessness and I'm defending myself, that's why we're in pain. So that's part of what's going on in this lesson.
So that I'm glad you mentioned the defenselessness, because that is exactly what he's building on. So
Yeah.
What was defenselessness as opposed to our self-defense? What's the difference in defense? Like he said, defenselessness is my safety.
Yeah.
And we think our safety comes from attack, from
Ego, yeah, and he does say you, but it's really ego.
okay.
Right.
So defenselessness is our strength, not defense. So
Yeah.
what is defenselessness? Defenselessness is seeing ourselves as the Christ.
Right.
That's the defenselessness.
Finding our true power, huh?
Right. And again, he's saying, as you deal moment to moment with the little fears, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you're doing that with the Holy Spirit, with the Course's thought system, you're actually healing everything.
Right.
And that's why you don't have to go to some huge metaphysical understanding. It's just, here's these little fears.
Right. Yeah.
And I really believe that I can make myself my defenses.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And my defenses, in this lesson, what he's focusing on is, if I want to be safe, I have to attack you. I have to attack the world. I have to attack whatever is outside of myself.
Right.
So let's just.
Can I make an example of that?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's really important in terms of relationships.
Sure.
So, in relationship or just in your life, everyone has certain roles that they feel like they have to fulfill as their function.
Yeah.
Right? And it's those roles being fulfilled that causes conflicts in relationships.
Yeah, right.
In other words, you want to use the studio one day for one thing, and I want to use it that day for another thing. Like, how are we going to work that out?
Right, right.
Okay, so, but what's going on there in that conflict is really, who do I think I am in that situation?
Right.
And what image of myself am I trying to protect?
Really good point.
I'm trying to protect this ego body image of myself by saying, I need things to be this way. You can't have it your way. I must have it my way.
Yeah.
And what the Course is saying is that true thoughts cannot conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And if conflicting thoughts come in, they're just body thoughts.
Now that is an interesting idea, that
Well,
all attack is based on a belief that we are bodies,
right.
that we're limited in time and space, and even personality. That's just an idea that we make up about a body.
Right. So it is about seeing ourselves as a body, but what we can get a hold of is this concept of ourselves. That's where we can make. So in my example, if we're in conflict over this situation, then I have to take a look at, who do I think I am, and do I think that sense of self is being threatened?
Exactly.
And what the Holy Spirit is saying, if you two are joined in a holy relationship, there can't be a conflict in your functions, in your healing work. There can't be a real conflict.
Right.
But that's what he means by defense and cruelty. Now I have to pathologize somebody like, you want to use the room because you lived with your mother. Or, that's an attack.
Or don't you see how important I am and
Yeah.
I need to do this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you don't have enough patience. Now, those are the attacks,
Those are attacks.
right? And we think it's keeping us safe. And he's saying that's cruelty. And cruelty is not part of love.
And who is it cruel to? It's not only cruel to the person that we're dissing, it's cruel to ourselves.
Exactly.
Because we're not in contact with the love within us when we're attacking.
That's right.
Yeah. So this is an interesting point. We think, ego thinks that I can attack out of love.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm attacking my child when I spank her, but I'm only doing it because I love you, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna hurt you. I love you, so I'll hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Now,
and I'm only angry at you for something because I want you to be better. I really want you to improve yourself, right? It's an attack.
Right.
Anytime we see another person as different from ourselves, separate from ourselves, that already is an attack.
Right. And you're not making a point about corporal punishment and how that works with childhood. You're just making
I'm
you're
not.
making a point about maladaptive strategies.
I'm saying we mess up the complete distinction between love and attack.
That's it. Yeah. Completely confused.
We try to put them together.
Right.
I'm just hurting you for your own good.
So were you going to tie that to that defense of that false self, right? By pathologizing somebody or whatever way you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
Were you going to talk about that in terms of projection then?
Yeah. Okay.
How that defense proceeds through projection.
Right. Okay.
Mind.
So I don't know if you're following along in the book. I'll read parts of paragraph 3.
Yeah, just tell them where we're
Okay. Paragraph 3. It's on page 326, lesson 170. It says, it seems to be the enemy without that you attack.
You're preventing me from becoming the philosopher I need to be.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So now I become the enemy and I'm a separate person.
You're separate.
I'm separate. I'm the enemy without. Yet your defense sets up an enemy within. So if you were to do that, it would set up an enemy within you, an alien thought. When he uses alien, it means it's not of your true nature. And your true nature is your Christ nature. So
you especially have to say that in Sedona.
We see aliens every night.
Swing low, sweet aliens. Go ahead.
Okay, so an alien thought at war with you. That's the enemy within. The enemy within is a thought at war with you, depriving you of your peace and splitting your mind into two camps that seem totally irreconcilable. The two camps are love and an enemy, love and attack. But the split in the mind is you're here and I'm here. Because in truth, there's only one mind. We all share the same Christ mind. So when we see somebody that appears to be threatening us, when we see this kind of an action of minds, personalities, anybody who sees that and feels that has already believed in the split mind that I'm not whole,
Right.
I'm split, you're something separate from me, and you're at war with me.
And I'm coming from lack when I do that.
Absolutely.
I'm not coming from the abundance of love. I'm not coming with, we can share this being of love.
Right.
But would you also say the split mind, the war with inside, the split mind is also, here's the ego body thought system, and here's the Holy Spirit thought system of miracles. It's those two thought systems that are there that we keep going back and forth.
Right.
And that's, so the split mind then becomes where I can't see it, I can't see that it's these conflicts inside me
Right.
about who I think I am. Basically, I'm trying to get my innocence by making something else responsible for what's going on.
And they're guilty.
Right.
That's the essence of projection. The
And
guilt is out there.
Right. And it's the essence of conflict, because guilt and innocence can't both be true. And that's what he's saying. The darkness in your mind, the reason you can't see the miracles and the forgiveness, which is the only thing that is there, is that you're trying to put two things together that can't go together: innocence and guilt, and fear and love.
Right.
They can't both coexist.
Now, here's the interesting follow on to your mind is split in two camps. And that is, in the next paragraph, it says, we believe that ideas must leave their source. This is the deep metaphysics of the Course, is that there is only one mind, and that's the mind of God. There is only one mind, and that's filled with love. Everything else is like a bad dream. It's an illusion. But when I think that a figure out here is not in my mind, I'm actually believing in my dream. I'm believing in my nightmare. The nightmare is still in my mind and nowhere else.
See, that takes a while. That's taken all of us, I think, a while to get. What does it mean ideas don't leave their source, right? But if the issue in my mind is whatever it is, whatever is uncomfortable, whatever is the dark part of what we seem to be, whatever that is, I don't want to see it here in a split mind, because instantly that conflict can be resolved instantly.
In your mind, when we take responsibility for it, then we can heal it.
When we see the conflicts as a conflict of concepts inside, then we can heal it immediately. But if I believe this, whatever that part of me that's bad is not within me, but it's in you. Right?
Yeah.
That's where the split comes in.
That's where the split comes in.
But then I just have to see, no, this is a conflict inside myself. There's something I'm trying to protect.
Right.
Right? That's unreal or illusionary.
Okay. So then we go all the way from there to, what do we think about God?
Well, he's got to be the same dude. If we're cruel, then he's got to be. Because remember, in Love Created Me Like Itself, in that lesson way back, there's, however you see yourself, you're going to see God. So if we see ourselves in cruelty, the lesson is saying you don't really see that you're valuing this cruelty, these defenses, these attacks. But that is what we're doing. But if we see ourselves doing that, then we're going to think God's doing that.
Yeah, and there's a step in the middle there.
Yeah.
It's not, we don't want to see it in ourselves. We think the world is cruel to us.
Right, so that's
other people, other situations.
So that's how I was trying to get a hold of ideas leave their source.
Okay.
Right, I see this outside instead of here. Right?
Okay.
So we beat that first. So then we get into what's happening there is this reversal.
Okay, talk about that.
Well, if I believe my fears are keeping me safe, right? And it doesn't preclude that the Holy Spirit's not going to guide. It'll give you some way here, like do this, do that. It's not that you just have to know your spirit to be safe. It'll give you something here. But initially, I have to see the conflict inside myself. Right. And when I do, I see that I've invested with love the attributes of fear.
Yeah.
And I have put the attributes of love on fear and the attributes of fear on love. And that's why it's so simple to change it.
When we really are willing to look at it.
Right. So that's the big reversal. Fear is now love, and love is now fear. In other words, fear, I have to be afraid to keep myself safe. If I'm not fearful of how messed up your personality is, how am I going to protect myself from it?
And look at how we look around for things to fear. And why would we do that? Because we still are listening to the ego that says, pay attention to fear because it'll keep you safe. So, oh man, I better not get a mosquito bite. It might have Zika, or it might have West Nile, or, you know, oh my gosh, I can't go into the woods when I'm in a northern climate. I might get deer ticks and Lyme disease, and I better watch the news and find out where the scary things are so I can avoid them. What are we doing there but making ourselves afraid? And then our defenses, oh boy, I'll tell you, we got lots of hand sanitizer in this house. Why? Because we're afraid of those little invisible bugs.
Now, but it's really important to get here what the Course is saying about a very pragmatic way to deal with your fears, because what it's saying is you cannot learn in a state of fear.
Right.
There's no way that you're going to assimilate these
Right.
lessons when you're frightened. So the Course is saying that you want to minimize that fear in whatever way you can, and really it's just accepting miracles. It's just accepting forgiveness. But then what the Course is saying, endow hand sanitizer with healing properties.
Yeah.
Because that'll reduce your fear. And that's the whole point.
So, okay, so the Course is not, it doesn't go to the extreme of Christian Science, where they would say there is no sickness, there is no death, and don't do anything to protect yourself, and that logically and in the truth of it, that's true. But the Course is taking a middle step here and saying, okay, if you have a headache and you need to take some aspirin or Tylenol or whatever it is, do it. But what you're doing is you're endowing that bit of physicality with the properties of what you want. You are still doing it with your mind. So, okay.
Right. So
and minimizing fear is the big deal.
Right. So we started here with, there's a split in the mind because now I am believing in the ego's thought system, and the Holy Spirit's thought system is there. And therefore, if I'm listening to the ego, I have to defend myself, to protect myself from the dangers and all of that. So that's the split mind.
Yeah.
And in that, then we're seeing fear is love and love is fear. And we just made a side thing like, okay, but do whatever you have to do based on guidance to make yourself feel safe. But in paragraph 8, it gives up the game. And it's really important to see that he's saying, when you really see the conflicts inside you, and it's not outside in the world, when you see that you've been minimizing your fears and your guilt and shame by projection, and you withdraw that projection and see, I'm doing this to myself, here's what he says. This moment can be terrible.
Yeah.
It's important to get that, because the Course is all sweetness and light.
Except
if you let the darkness be brought to the light, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to read his description here.
Okay.
This moment can be terrible. I'm doing this to myself. But it can also be the time of your release from abject slavery.
And this is Juneteenth.
Juneteenth, right.
We are slaves of the ego until we recognize that we have power. It's not running us, and the world isn't running us, and our projections aren't running us.
Yeah, so the practice here is recognize this moment is terrible, but it can also be a time when you can make a choice that will restore to you the love you have sought to wrest from it and lay before this mindless piece of stone. So I'm endowing this cruelty within me that wants to pathologize you or anything else. Right? At that moment, I can see I've chosen that cruelty. I've invested that with safety. And it's not making me safe, for one thing.
Right.
Right? It's miracles. It's forgiveness that keeps me safe.
Right.
So when we do that, like we've done that many times where we're like, and there's like, you go to your room, I'll go to my, we just can't
Yeah.
We can't deal with it.
Yeah.
But when we do go to our corners, we go, oh, well, maybe it's something I'm
Let me
doing.
talk to God here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm responsible for my experience.
Yeah.
Right? And then we try and heal that. And then we can come back.
Yeah.
And then we can work.
And then on the practical level, we can have a conversation from peace and neutrality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to go to that whole image of God as really a powerless, scary thing. And that is actually powerless, but looking scary. That is the image we have of God, of the real God, until we recognize that I am responsible for all the pain in my life, in my mind. Everything else has been a projection, a desire on my part. Starts with a desire. I project it outward. I see it coming after me. It's the split mind that's projected out into the world and comes back as scary. When I little by little by little take apart the little fears, the little angers and all that in my life, I begin to, what the Course calls, drop the veil between the parts of the sonship, the parts of the true self.
Right.
And when we do that, that's the awakening to the Christ in both of us. It's the dismantling of the belief that anything out there is scary, because I've taken responsibility.
Right.
And when we do that, when we recognize each other as a safe and loving being, the same safe and loving being that I have, you have, and we're the same, when we do that, then our fear of God, the big guy, disappears.
That's right.
And that's what this is about. There's no cruelty in God because there's none in me. We have to dismantle the cruelty within ourselves, which comes from fear.
Yeah.
And therefore we'll dismantle any belief that God is trying to hurt us.
Right.
And, you know, the Course talks about our unconscious processes. And little by little, we recognize what it's saying is true. We recognize it by putting the practices in place in our lives. And what we finally get to is, yeah, I have been thinking that. I have been thinking that all of this pain that's in my life, I deserved, and God was doing it to me.
Right.
God's not doing it to us. We're doing it.
So if we're in an interpersonal conflict, like we've been talking about, like we both have jobs to do and functions, and they seem to be in conflict, right?
Okay.
So when I recognize the conflicts inside of my mind,
right,
then I recognize that by attacking you, I'm attacking myself.
Absolutely.
And then
there's no need for it.
And then I realized that if I have in fact healed it inside my mind, it'll be healed in this mind also, because it's the Holy Spirit that's doing the giving and receiving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I recognize if I forgive you, it's forgiving me.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And if I attack you, it's attacking.
There's only two thought systems. So wherever our mind is, we're seeing both ourselves and other people.
Right.
So we can recognize where our mind is by seeing how much cruelty are we seeing in the world. There's no cruelty in God. There's none in our true self. So where is cruelty? It's a bad dream. If we recognize that what the Course is saying is that we're having a bad dream, and we can give it to the Holy Spirit and ask for another dream, a happy dream. When we do that, we're joined with Holy Spirit and we're joined with others, and we begin to wake up.
That's right. And page 6, the Holy Spirit doesn't get into a discussion with you about the illusion and what's illusion and what's real, or about projections, and you make it, that it just says you're safe now.
Yeah.
That's what the Holy Spirit, you're safe now.
Yeah.
Because again, you can't learn in a state of fear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing the Holy Spirit does, is say you're safe now. But then, right, so as you were going through that, here's what it says in 11.
Paragraph 11.
If you really realize that the conflict is between these concepts of self inside yourself, and you decide to heal that, it says you can do that in an instant. And this lesson is saying you can do it forever. Never need those fears arise again. That's what it's saying. The choice you make today is certain, for you look for the last time upon this bit of carven stone you made, the God of vengeance, the God of cruelty. You look on it for the last time and call it God no longer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the simplicity of the Course. See that conflict inside here. See that it happens between personalities and sense of self, and dismiss it. Right now. And you can do it forever.
Right.
Because it really is just one mistake. It's just a conceptual problem inside the mind.
So one of the problems is it seems so immense when we look at it, what is in our mind, the sense of I'm responsible for everything I see. I'm responsible for how I see it. And I see horrors out there. I am responsible. We have to make a very clear distinction between responsibility and guilt. If we're responsible, then we've got power. We can change it. If we're guilty, we are powerless. We are victims. We are, oh my God, of course I don't want to look at that. But that's why he's saying the power of the Christ is within us, is when we take responsibility, my mind can go down into that cauldron of ego that the whole sonship shares. All of humanity shares that program, and I can say no. Right here, I say no to that. That's power.
Yeah.
But I can't do it unless I say, yeah, that's my ego too.
Right.
Right? That thing that wants to kill people, he's saying actually a little bit of, what are those terms? A little bit of irritation is a cover for intense rage.
Yeah, just a little frustrated. Like, Jan, you didn't pick up the mail. Right?
Yeah, a little bit of frustration.
A little bit of shaming, a little bit of guilting with your anger. You didn't pick up the meal.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so when that happens, we can recognize that is where we make a new choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I would say something like that because I feel threatened. Like,
exactly.
I feel threatened, and I think I have to criticize you.
Which is an attack.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that these things won't be addressed in some practical way either, right? It's just this. So in this, what he's saying here is that if you really see this conceptual conflict inside and you accept the miracle and the forgiveness, then your experience with what seems to be the world and everything can be done through the true self eyes, the Christ eyes. I can see through Christ's eyes. I can hear through his ears.
Right.
It's his hands and his feet that is now informing me of what I need to understand. It's informing me of self. It's informing me of mental content.
So your body is the vehicle for the Christ.
Yes.
Rather than the servant of the ego.
Right. And so what he's saying is if you recognize what a terrible moment this can be, that you're responsible for it. If you really recognize that it's terrible, hard to look at, but that if you do it, if you really do it, you can be free of it forever.
Yeah. Because
not what the Course is saying is then the split mind we talked about at the beginning, the ego's body thought system, the Holy Spirit's, you'll still hear the ego body's thought system, but you're not listening to it any more than you would a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're just listening to the Holy Spirit
Yeah.
because you see the game of projecting the problem out.
Right.
You see that and you go, that's not going to work.
I'm not going to play
I'm
that.
not going to do that. I want to love my sister.
Yeah.
I want to love this person. I don't want to condemn, complain,
Right.
manage, organize.
Yeah.
Who wants to work that hard?
Yeah. Right. Right. Who wants to suffer? And suffering is forgetting who we are. So
So
thank you so much.